Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Valor Ridge. In this video, we're going to talk about some major issues with the president. Let's go ahead and get started. Folks, if you're like me, you're probably not a ideologue when it comes to politics, Republican, Democrat, whatever. I'm about small government and maximum individual liberty. So I want individual liberty to be the main mover of this all. I don't care which party that you support. I don't support Democrats or Republicans. I've given Democrats a pretty hard time simply because they're so egregiously the violators of our rights, or at least try to be. But, I got to be honest here. Republicans have done it too, most notably our president of the United States. Now, I'll just caveat here, I voted for him. I did, because I didn't want Hillary Clinton to be president. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this video are probably in the same boat where you did not want that corrupt, vile woman to be in the White House. Well, we've got Donald Trump in the White House now. And this video, to me, is about firearms. Okay, that's what I do for a living. That is my profession. That's what I am. That is my issue. I am a single issue voter. Okay, I'm a single issue voter when it comes to that. I believe that the Second Amendment is the one thing that makes all of our other, quote, rights possible. And I don't think that anything else really matters, because if we don't have the ability to protect ourselves, then all of it's null and void, and at least it would be eventually. So I am a single issue voter. When it comes to firearms, I vote for candidates that uphold the individual right to keep and bear arms, that uphold our ability to keep the Bill of Rights together. I guess that I've got several issues with the president on firearms. I've got several issues, and I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you probably do as well. The most notable issue that I have with him is the fact that he sold himself as this pro-Second Amendment guy to get elected, and he knew how to pander. He knew how to speak the language of gun owners in this country. He knew how to get the NRA behind him. He knew how to talk the sweet talk. If you looked on his website for president when he first started, I believe that the Second Amendment is absolute. I believe that it needs to be protected. And, at the beginning of his presidency, and even slightly before it, when Obama was still in office, we were so close to having suppressors taken off the NFA list. So close. We were very close to a national reciprocity when it comes to concealed carry in this country. We were very close. And now we're at the point where a couple of years, or just past his halfway point in his presidency, we're at the point now where bump stocks have been banned. We're at the point now where he's on Piers Morgan talking about how he doesn't like silencers. Hey, listen, President Trump, it's not a silencer, it's a suppressor. They've been around for over 100 years, even longer. Then actually something that you wouldn't know, because you grew up in New York City, man. What are you going to know about guns? You ain't going to know anything about it. Most people up there have no idea about firearms. And I know that there are some gun people up there, so this isn't all of New York. But when you're talking about a business mogul like Donald Trump, the only experience he has with guns is with the people who protect him, his armed bodyguards, and of course now the Secret Service. So we're talking about some serious issues here. So as I said, guys, my biggest issue is the fact that he sold himself as the Second Amendment guy, yet during his presidency, we've had more gun control with President Trump than we ever did with Barack Obama. And look, under Obama's presidency, he talked about it. All the Democrats ran their little suckholes about, banning guns and all this, but they never did it. They never did anything about it. All the Republicans played the game. They talked tough opposition when they were, the ones that were fighting against it, or at least had the veneer of fighting against it. But now we're at the point where we've got Republicans proposing gun control, things like red flag bills, guys like Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham. And of course, President Trump himself has been on record as saying that he believes that guns should be taken first and then due process comes later. So because he's not a constitutional guy, let me explain something about how due process works, President Trump. Due process means that if there is a crime, or at least there's evidence of a crime, that an accused has a right to face his accusers. He has a right to be informed of the charges levied against him. This is a fundamental right in our republic, in case you missed that in civics class, in business school. The other problem that I have here is that he says that people should be 21 in order to purchase a long gun. Really? I carried an M16A2 service rifle in defense of my country when I was 17 years old. The same military that you didn't have the guts to join. So don't talk to me that somebody has to be 21 years old to have a rifle or a shotgun, okay? There's plenty of people that are younger than 21 right now protecting the wars that you continue, okay? So don't tell me that you're against people that are under the age of 21 having firearms because they do your bidding as commander-in-chief. They are the people that you send and deploy overseas. The under 21 makes up the vast majority of our armed forces. So don't tell me they're not responsible enough to have them, because you have no problem using them in your proxy wars and continuing them. So do not lecture people about that they need to be 21 to have firearms. And I've heard him say this. I've seen video footage of him saying this stuff. And I know this is going to ruffle some Trump supporters' feathers, and you may even unsubscribe from the channel or not come out to train like you were going to anyway. And you know what? That's fine. I really don't care. At this point, I'm so tired of the lesser of the two evils. I'm so tired of that paradigm. I'm so over it. I do not, for 1 second, will never again compromise because of the lesser of the two evils. I will vote for a candidate that I believe upholds the Second Amendment. I will vote for a candidate that upholds the Constitution. I will vote for candidates that have a proven track record of individual liberty and voting in laws that protect individual liberty. Those are the only people ever again that I'll vote for in an election of any type. And there's no more of this compromise stuff where, oh, you know what, we're going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Do you want a Democrat to get in? I don't know. When a Democrat was in office, Barack Obama, my firearms rights weren't restricted further than what they have been in the Trump administration. So you can say what you want to about that. And you say, well, he would have done it, would have, could have, should have, didn't. And that's the bottom line. The other issue I have with the president and his gun control stuff is of course, the bump stock ban. Now, listen, I do not have a bump stock. I never did have one. The only experience that I've ever had with them is seeing them at certain places. I think that it is not useful in any way, shape, or form, but it doesn't make it an automatic weapon. It doesn't make it any more or less dangerous than anything else. And then with no pressure whatsoever, with nobody having the ability to enact legislation that would have banned this, he ordered the ATF to have this done. The same ATF who under Barack Obama had no issues with bump stocks whatsoever, but under President Trump they did. And here's the really insidious part about this whole thing is that the man was just at the NRA convention literally a couple of months ago talking about how he has protected the Second Amendment. Well, I have yet to find evidence of how that's the case. I have yet to see any evidence whatsoever of how the Trump administration has protected the Second Amendment. It certainly hasn't expanded it. It certainly hasn't made it better for gun owners. It certainly hasn't made the Second Amendment more accessible. In fact, states at individual levels at the states, they've made even more restrictive laws. So I think is you got to really be objective about this stuff, and you've got to really understand that just because it's a Republican, that doesn't mean that they're good people that protect firearms. And when you're talking red flag laws like Senators Rubio and Lindsey Graham, and even a lot of representatives in the House of Representatives have proposed, a lot of them are Republicans. And I don't know what world people live in that they think, oh, well, we just need to get more Republicans in. Listen, I do not, at this point, think that anybody represents the interest of gun owners, but gun owners themselves. Because if you think that you're going to send these people to Washington, D.C., and their integrity is not going to be compromised, you are living in a delusional world. Because that place, that hellhole, that least American city in the entire country, Washington, D.C., is the greatest cesspool of scum and villainy that has ever been assembled in any one place. When I look at people like James Madison and Richard Henry Lee and George Mason, the people that created our Constitution, the people that created our Bill of Rights, the people that created the recognition via the Second Amendment, when I look at all of those guys and then I look at Congress now, it's an absolute joke. It would be like having a wonderful flower in a garden and then all of a sudden it's decayed matter and weeds. Like that to me is what Washington, D.C. is. And you may ask, why am I doing this video? Because I'm tired of people telling others how to live their life. I'm tired of people that we elect getting to Washington, D.C., learning how to play the game, and then our rights get restricted. And as I said, folks, if this ruffles some Trump supporters' feathers, good. But I want you to justify his comments against the Second Amendment. And I want you to justify him wanting to do away with due process. And I want you to justify the bump stock ban. And I want you to justify him wanting people to be 21 years old to purchase a long gun. And I want you to justify his comments that he doesn't like silencers on Piers Morgan. Of course, he's catering to the Brits. And not all Brits are against guns. I know a lot of Brits watch this channel that are very pro firearms ownership. And you know what? I feel for you guys, and I wish that you would come here instead of people that hate this country. I wish that you would come here. But my point is that if a lifelong New York Democrat gets to be president of the United States, which is what Donald Trump was, a lifelong New York Democrat who knows nothing about firearms, the most heavily guarded man on the planet. The most heavily guarded man on the planet. There are more guns protecting Donald Trump than any other man on the planet, who has no problems with the Secret Service having M4s. And I know exactly what M4 they use because I've got friends in the Secret Service. I know exactly what they are. It's the same guns that he doesn't want you or me to have. And he has no problem being around them. He has no problem being protected by those guns, by those silencers. Yeah, they use suppressors, you know. They use suppressors on their guns, on their submachine guns, and also on their M4s. So he has no problem. It's not that he doesn't like suppressors. It's he doesn't want us to have them for some reason. His handlers told him what he needed to say. So, folks, I know some of you watching out there think that, if we just elect good people, to the federal government, we can turn this thing around. Listen, the federal government's the problem here. They're the problem. They're the restrictor of your rights and your state rights too. If you look at what they've done to some of the states and coerce them for funding and everything else, this is a major problem here. So look, you people in the NRA, and all this and that, Wayne LaPierre, Chris Cox, and all you people, and I'm a lifetime member. Look, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I want Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox, I know you watch my videos, I want you to defend Donald Trump's comments, and I want you to defend his actions via executive order. Defend how he has restricted the Second Amendment. Defend him, and then by all means invite him to your convention next year. And then he'll give you a sunshine ray cure of emotional output about how he protects the Second Amendment, when in fact, his administration is one of the biggest violators in simply 2 years, one of the biggest violators of the Second Amendment that there is. So guys, sometimes we got to face cold hard facts. Sometimes we got to face the reality that, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, that the guy that's in the White House right now, Donald Trump, is no friend of the Second Amendment, is no friend of libertarians or conservatives. And as I said, guys, if you get pissed off that I'm criticizing your dear leader, I want you to think what you're getting pissed about. Because everything that I've said in this video is true. Everything that I've said can be documented, verified, and he is on record as saying, so if you're going to defend a guy like that, if you're going to defend his actions against the Second Amendment, then you're dumber than you look. I see the same, and the problem is I see the same behavior with the devout Obama supporters. I see the same thing with certain Trump supporters. Like, the man can do no wrong. He's this genius. He's playing four-dimensional chess. Really? Our Second Amendment isn't a chess game. Our Second Amendment isn't a chess game. All you people that said, he's doing the bump stocks so we can get national concealed carry reciprocity. Let's see. It sat on Mitch McConnell's desk for 2 years with a Republican House that already passed it, sent it to the Senate, and it sat there for 2 years. So now it's Democrat House. It's Republican Senate. So, but yet the bill is still not there. So you geniuses out there that think he's got this big grand strategy. Hey, we're past 50% into his presidency at this point. We're well past it. He knows who's in it. He knows who the people he can work with and who he can't work with it now. It's no mystery. So please, once again, defend his actions. Defend his words. Defend what's happened to the Second Amendment under this administration. Please, by all means, defend what's happening to it. It's this whole thing where an abused spouse can justify their partner's behavior. He only hits me because he cares. I see the same criteria here. I took the police reports. I've taken the domestic violence reports where I've heard men and women both justify the behavior of the person that kept pounding them and bruising them and punching them in the face. I heard it. He just went a little too far, but I really don't want anything bad. It's like I see the same thing. Like, these gun owners think, we need to get Trump back in office. Why? So you could have more of your Second Amendment pissed on? So you could have more of your rights taken away? I don't think so. As for me, I'm done with this compromise stuff. I'm done with it all. I am tired of these governments, whether it's federal or even state governments, violating our natural right to self-defense. I'm sick and tired of them trying to dictate to others what they can and cannot have, when, if, how, and when that we can defend ourselves. I'm over it. They're the problem. They are not your friend. Government is force. It's coercion. And the sooner people recognize this and realize that the only thing that we have is each other, the only thing that we have is other patriots, the only thing that we have is our adherence to the principles of freedom that our founding fathers gave us through the Constitution. The sooner that you realize that, the sooner you'll realize that the federal government of the United States is completely out of control. Certain state governments are completely out of control. And we're at the point now where we got to realize that we do not have any allies other than ourselves. We have no other allies other than ourselves. And the sooner people realize that, the better off and the quicker that we can restore our Second Amendment. So guys, I wanted to get this all off my chest. I'm about to go into my day of rest, and I don't want to have any regrets. And I wanted to get that off my chest because the Piers Morgan thing with Trump on that was my final straw. I wanted to give the man the benefit of the doubt. All this time, I said, maybe he's got, you kind of mentally try to excuse a lot of stuff, but I can't do it anymore, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And as I said, if this offends you that I'm criticizing dear leader, you need to do a self-evaluation. Like, you need to reassess your principles and your values, and you need to reassess why you put so much faith in a guy who has never proven that he's a friend of the Second Amendment, and a guy that has never proven that he values the founding fathers of this country. It's Reid Henrichs of Valor Ridge reminding you the lessons that we learn written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.